Absolutely. And speaking of Ring of Honor, stand there for a second. Obviously, big news breaking this past weekend. Some big Ring of Honor booking changes. I'm sure that you would assume that would have been brought up on today's show. A lot of people had sent in stuff over the last day or two wanting you to address that here on the show.
Well, all I know is I found out about this late Sunday, early Monday, just about the same time everybody else did. Kerry Silkin, the Ring of Honor owner, has relieved Adam Pearce of the booking duties that he's had for 2 years. From what I understand, it's not any indictment of Adam's booking. He's done a great job. This is one of the best years at Ring of Honor and at the gate. It's just a desire to do something different, a desire to to maybe go in a different direction and maybe do some things. And I'll admit there were maybe some conflicts with personality-wise with Adam and members of the office, but at the same time it was amicable. The door is open. Adam could return at some point. My job doesn't change. Delirious is going to be the head booker, and I'm the kibitzer who interferes in everything. We're all going to pitch in and help a little bit at the start, doing some extra things to make the transition smooth. But I've talked to Adam. We're friends. People who are trying to come up with some kind of scandal or a bunch of people saying fuck you to each other, it hasn't materialized. So they're kind of grasping at straws on the Internet.
Bryan Danielson once again reappeared at the WWE SummerSlam pay-per-view this past Sunday. A few listeners sent in questions, want to know your thoughts on Bryan Danielson back in WWE.
Well, we kind of figured that was going to happen. It's just, it's still yet to be explained why that all this had to go on. But for once, the WWE's underhanded shenanigans have made somebody probably a bigger star. So, accidentally, of course. So I'm glad for Bryan Danielson. He should have been there all along. He's a great talent. He's earned his chance. And so at least if it ends up happy, then even though they took a detour, I guess they're back in the right place. I'm glad for Bryan.
Now, wasn't he scheduled to be on upcoming Ring of Honor shows?
Well, he was not. And the reason he was not was simply because truthfully, number one, he had a 90-day no-compete, and which is actually, has it even been 90 days yet since they fired him? He had a 90-day no-compete for pay-per-view or television. He's made some of these independent events that didn't conflict with that, but he was not scheduled for anything with Ring of Honor simply because of that, and also because we probably figured that we would not have him for a long time because they would certainly rectify this mistake. So, between the no-compete and not wanting to book ahead and then have to change something, it just never came to pass. Not that we wouldn't have wanted Bryan, but just that we didn't think there was a window there to bring him in and do anything constructive with him before he was probably headed back.
Sure. Now someone you definitely have for Ring of Honor coming up on your big show in September, and I'm sure you're excited about this, is Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin.
That is going to be a great tag team match. Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin against the Kings of Wrestling, September 11th in New York at the Manhattan Center on the next Ring of Honor Internet pay-per-view. You can go to Go Fight Live TV to figure out how to order that for only $14.95. I had a hand in training Shelton Benjamin from scratch and Charlie Haas when he was signed to a developmental and sent here to Louisville. Both Charlie and Shelton are tremendous athletes. They've never really gotten a chance to shine in the WWE up to their potential and up to their athletic ability, and that's right up Ring of Honor's alley. So we like to let people shine. So they're, I think, going to let it hang out in New York on September 11th. And the Kings of Wrestling have proven to be the most dominant tag team in Ring of Honor this year, but they may have a little stumbling block. And at the very least, it's going to be a match that a lot of people are going to remember. So I'm looking forward to it.
I know another subject a lot of people want to get your thoughts on, since we didn't be able to do a show the last couple of weeks.
You keep getting that dig in, Tommy. We haven't been able to do that show. You're browbeating me.
It's my fault.
Go ahead.
Is the ECW angle, and more importantly, the ECW pay-per-view that they did a few weeks back. They want to know your thoughts on the angle itself and them doing the ECW pay-per-view.
Oh, lordy. Well, I think we did say that at least TNA had traveled ahead in time from the late 80s to 1997. And, you know, here, instead of a bunch of 50-year-old guys, they had a bunch of 40-year-old guys. So they're getting younger. It's ridiculous. Let it, even people who were associated with the original ECW are now saying, let it die already. Once again, is this a plan for the future? Is TNA Wrestling putting a framework down for the future by going back to all this hardcore bullshit, which I heard the wrestler, I wouldn't watch the thing, except if I had a gun pointed to me and I was tied to a chair, but I read the reviews. Sloppy wrestling, a lot of emotion. Why can't they create that emotion for their young talent that they've been paying and supposed to be building all this time? Sloppy wrestling, overbooked, 10 years behind the times, living in the past, with a bunch of guys who contributed greatly to ECW success, but it's been gone for 9 years now, folks. Can we please move into the future? I feel like I'm stuck in the hot tub time machine. And this time it's not even Vince Russo's time machine. Dixie Carter, they did surveys that said that most of their fans liked ECW. No shit, Sherlock, because most of the fans that will put up with TNA's product are the people who love wrestling and want to see any kind of wrestling and would love for them to be good, but they're not. It's like an abusive relationship. You'd love for the product to be good, but it's not, but you keep going back to it. So, of course, those people that Eric Bischoff himself insults, I wish the right hand knew what the left hand was doing. Don't you? Bischoff is insulting the same kind of wrestling fans that are TNA's primary audience and the same kind of wrestling fans that like ECW, because they are wrestling fans, but Bischoff don't like them, and then they present ECW, and of course it probably did a better buy rate than their normal, subpar pay-per-view efforts, but the point is it still does nothing for their future. Half these guys can't wrestle a regular basis. Half these guys have real jobs now. Half these guys just moonlight as wrestlers, and it's just ridiculous. Once again, can anybody explain to me why they have to rehash the same shit over and over again? Oh, wait a minute, I figured it out, because they're too stupid to do the good shit, to do new shit any good. So, that's my thought on it. Love a lot of people that were on the show, but probably even some of them would say, wow, yeah. And then, of course, they have the tag team thing where they whack each other with blunt instruments, and then they just stop and hug. So it's just they took a big shit on today's wrestling business, just like they usually do.
Another thing I want to talk to you about and get your opinion of, I know you don't really follow WWE programming. Well, I know you don't. But I know you know about
there always has to be that disclaimer.
You know about that Nexus angle and how the guys first debuted, and you heard it was a really good angle it did initially where they destroyed John Cena in the ring and everything like that, and then they dropped the ball the following week. The next week they lay out Vince McMahon, which was a good angle. It was like on again, off again, on again, off again. Now finally at SummerSlam this past Sunday, they finally had the big match where all these guys took on Team WWE. It was the first real big encounter between this group and the WWE group, and sure enough, what happened at SummerSlam this past Sunday, the WWE group goes over the very first time these two collide. What is your thoughts on that process where you're trying to build these young kids up and make them strong and seem like they're able to compete with the top stars at WWE, and the first time these two teams collide, you have Team WWE go over?
Well, my thought is much of what you would think it is. Number one, at least at this point, I'm glad that somebody under the age of 40 got to main event a pay-per-view. But at the same time, 7 young guys all together with the focus being put on the fact that they're young rookies rather than each individual guy. So have you made a star? The only star they made out of the whole thing was Bryan Danielson, and he's the one that they fired. And then you put the guys in their first main event on their first pay-per-view, and they lose. So we had a little 4-week program. Oh, we're going to put these guys in the main event, and then we proved that they were losers. So that's, pretty much what you would expect.
Shouldn't Booking 101 though say that those guys go over on the WWE?
Well, of course it is, but there's nobody in the WWE on the staff of comedy writers led by that little pimply faced comic book reader. What's his name? Gerwitz?
Yeah.
There's nobody that knows Booking 101. They don't even think they're bookers. They think they're writers. They're big TV writers. Some of them may even think that they're Pulitzer Prize-winning novelists. I don't know. But no, they've never heard of Booking 101.